Hi, I'm back again. So I'm just going to read this out for you because we have done till there. I had explained you the basic things and I told you it like a story. So now I'll just read and we hope we finish it and we can do it ahead. I just wanted to ask you that will you able to do the correct answers like Dash was the capital of the Chandelas, Malkhed, Tanjore, Kanchi, Khajuraho. The tribe struggle to capture Kannauj lasted for over 2 centuries. Palla dynasty was succeeded by Dash dynasty in the 12th century, by the Sena dynasty or the Wanga dynasty, Kauda dynasty or the Anga dynasty. Dash founded the Yadava dynasty in Devagiri, the Bhoja, Dantidurga, Bhilamma or Bhim. This traveler visited the kingdoms of Kakatiyas and Pandyas. Abdul Razak, Alberoni, Nicole Conti or Marco Polo. It's going to be Marco Polo. Give one word of the following. Kirti Varman was the most powerful ruler of this dynasty. Prithviraj Chauhan and Muhammad Ghori clashed twice at this place, Battle of Taran. The Pala king also with his son expanded and strengthened the kingdom of what? Kanchi was the capital of this dynasty. Of which dynasty? This was the general assembly of village under the Cholas. So you have to do these things and you have to get it done. Okay, so I'm going to start reading from that place where we left. Struggle of Kannauj. As I have explained it to you, Kannauj was the most important city in the north India. Its location was such that whoever held Kannauj could control the resources, minerals, agriculture and trade, as I told you, isn't it? So, of the entire Ganga valley. Since the 18th century, the Palas, Gurjaras, Pratiharas and Rashtrakuts were engaged in a tripartite struggle to control Kannauj. Okay, this struggle lasted for over 2 centuries and weakened all the dynasties. The Palas. The Palas ruled the region covered by the present day states of Bihar, Jharkhand and West Bengal. Gopala was the first ruler and he and his son Dharmapala expanded and strengthened the kingdom. Dharmapala also encouraged trade with Southeast Asia. Devapala was another powerful ruler of this dynasty. There was a great prosperity among the reign of the Pala kings. They were followers of Buddhism, built stupas and gave money to monasteries. In the 12th century, the Palas were succeeded by rulers of the Sena dynasty who ruled until the Muslims defeated them, the Gurjara and Pratiharas. The Gurjara and Pratiharas ruled over parts of Rajasthan and Gujarat. The most powerful ruler was Bhoja, as I told you, 836 to 882. He conquered Kannauj and made it his capital. He was succeeded by his son Mahendrapala. He expanded the empire further. His successors, however, were weak and could not defend the kingdom from invasions. In 1018, Muhammad of Ghazni defeated the Pratihara rulers. Soon the dynasty came to an end. The area between Narmada and Krishna rivers is known as the Deccan, the down part. The Rashtrakuts were very powerful here. The Rashtrakutas rose to power in the 8th century under Dantidurga. He and his successor Krishna I consolidated the Rashtrakuta rule in the region of the present day Maharashtra. Malkhed near modern Solapur in Maharashtra was the capital city. The answer is here for this one. Dash was the capital of the Chandelas, Malkhed, Tanjore, Kanchi and this thing. So, Rashtrakutas fought against the Palas, the Gurjara Prathiyas in the north. Towards the south, they clashed with the Pallavas, the Pandyas and Cholas. Continuous wars weakened the Rashtrakutas considerably. They were finally overthrown in the 10th century. The Rashtrakud kings were patrons of art, architecture and literature. The famous Kailasa temple at Ellora and the rock-cut caves at Elephanta were carved during the reign of the Rashtrakuts. The rulers encouraged the growth of regional languages, especially Kannada. Other kingdoms were the Yadavas and the Devagiri. Bhilamma founded the kingdom in the 12th century. Soon the Yadavas consolidated themselves in the region between Narmada and Godavari rivers. A flourishing trade made the kingdom rich and prosperous. In the 14th century, the Khalji rulers extended their territories. Chalukyas of Kalyani. The Chalukyas of Kalyani were also known as the later Chalukyas or the Western Chalukyas. The greatest ruler was Vikramanka. He and his successors built many temples at Aihole, Badami and Pattadakal. The Kakatiyas at Varangal, the Kakatiyas ruled the 12th and the 13th centuries. Their kingdom lay between the Godavari and the Krishna rivers. Marco Polo tells us that the Kathakali rulers were followers of Shaivism. Though Jainism and Vaishnavism also flourished, the rulers patronized Sanskrit and Telugu. In the early 14th century, the kingdom was conquered by the sultans of Delhi. Hosalas and Dwara Samudra. The Hoysalas ruled the region covered by present-day Karnataka. The most powerful king was Vishnuvardhan. Ultimately, the kingdom was absorbed by the Delhi Sultanate. Delhi Sultanate took everything all over India. They invaded the Sultanate. They became the boss. South India, there were three powerful kingdoms, as I said, the Pallavas, the Pandyas and the Cholas. There were great constant struggle for supremacy amongst them. The Pallavas, you have read about it in already class 3. They became very powerful in the 7th century and 8th centuries. Their capital was the city of Kanchi. The Pallava rulers built many beautiful temples of stone in the 9th century. The Cholas defeated the Pallavas and ended the rule. You must remember when and who defeated whom. These you have to remember. This is your job you have to do. The Pandyas ruled the kingdom. The Pandyas ruled the region around the present day Madurai, which was their capital. It was an important center of learning. Marco Polo also visited the Pandyan kingdom. He has left a detailed account of his visit. The kingdom declined in the 14th century. Then we come to the Cholas. The Cholas established a powerful empire in South India. That is why they are known as the Imperial Cholas. They ruled in the South India for nearly 4 centuries. Tanjore, now called Thanjavur, was their capital. Vijayalaya, 846 to 871, was the first Chola ruler. He ruled the region north of river Kaveri. Parantaka I conquered Madurai from the Pandyas. He was, however, defeated by the Rashtrakuta king Krishna III in the Battle of Takolam in 949. Raja Chola and Rajendra Chola made the Cholas the greatest power of South India. Raja Chola was 985 to 1016. Raja Chola was called also Raja I, was a brilliant commander. He defeated the Pandyas and the Cheras. He built a strong navy to control trade along the coastal areas. The Chola fleet captured parts of Ceylon, Sri Lanka and Maldive Islands. Rajendra Chola 1016 to 1044. Rajendra Chola was Raja's son. He succeeded his father to the throne. Rajendra Chola made the empire even more powerful. His army defeated the Cheras, the Chalukyas and marched as far as north as modern day West Bengal, where he defeated the Palas. After his victory, Rajendra Chola called himself Gangai Konda Chola, which means one who has conquered a place up to the Ganges, the Ganga, the river Ganga. He also built a new capital near Tanjore and called it Gangai Konda Cholapuram. Rajendra Chola's most daring campaign was in Southeast Asia. For centuries, Indian merchants had been trading with various parts of Southeast Asia and southern China. Indian ships had to pass through the Straits of Malacca, which was controlled by the kingdom of Sri Vijaya. The merchants of Sri Vijaya did not allow Indian ships and merchants to sail in the region. Many of these merchants were the Chola kingdom. They appealed to Rajendra Chola for help. He sent his fleet and defeated this king of Vijaya also, the Sri Vijaya king. So trade with the South Asia and southern China made the Chola kingdom more wealthy. They became more rich. The successors of Rajendra Chola continued to fight against the neighboring kingdoms. The continuous conflict depleted the treasury and weakened the Chola power considerably. The empire declined towards the end of the 13th century. What happens is if you keep on fighting, if you keep on having war, your whatever wealth you have, it goes down. Like we are facing this now. Suddenly we have had this COVID, this pandemic is going, everything is shut down, there is no income. So whatever money is there is getting used, isn't it? So you have to again earn it. So that's what it is. When something's bad happen, you can't help it. Cultural achievements, what were their cultural regarding temples, sculpture, language and literature? Was the Cholas were great temple builders. The most of the temples were built in Dravidian style, in the Andhra Pradesh style. The Brihadeshwara temple at Tavanjore is the finest temple of Chola temple architecture. The temple is now a World Heritage Site. Sculpture, the Cholas also excelled at making images of gods and goddesses. These images were either of stone or bronze, the later being more popular. The bronze image of Lord Shiva as Nataraja, Lord of Dance, is one of the finest specimens of Chola art. You have this picture on your book, and you have the Brihadeshwara temple was built by Rajaraja I. So look at these places, monuments they have built. Language and literature, the Chola period witnessed a growth of regional languages such as Tamil, Telugu and Kannada. Kannada is spoken in Bangalore and Mangalore, Karnataka. Telugu is spoken in Andhra Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, in your Telangana and parts of Andhra Pradesh is starts from basic from as Odisha finishes, your Andhra Pradesh starts from that side. You go up to Hyderabad is also Andhra Pradesh, and they speak Telugu. Basically, that area speaks Telugu, and Madras, Tamil Nadu speaks Tamil. Okay. So these were the languages, Tamil, Telugu and Kannada. Many literary works were translated into these languages. Read about the developments in literature under the Cholas in lesson 10. Administration, this is important. The kingdom was divided into provinces called mandalams, looked after by governors. Each mandalam was further divided into numerous valanadus. Each valanadu consisted of number of villages. The villages called nadu or kuram was the lowest unit. There were also many towns as nagarams such as Tanjore, Kanchi and Puhar. Village assemblies, local self-government was special feature of Chola administration. Villages enjoyed freedom in looking after their own affairs. Each village had two assemblies, the Ur and the Sabha. The former was the general assembly of the village. The latter was a gathering of all male adults of the village. These assemblies also formed many sub-committees. All affairs of the village such as measurement or land, under civilization, calculation of tax and its cultivation, collection, settlement of disputes, sharing of water, building and repairing water tanks and irrigation canals, so on, were looked after by these subcommittees. Was the local self-government system under the Chola similar to the modern system of village panchayats? So people are still following that the panchayats are still following that system which is going on till today. So it's been done like that. Now the agrarian expansion in Tamil region. There was some new developments in agriculture. The agrarian means agriculture. More area was brought under the cultivation. This was due to two developments. First, a lot of dry, barren and forest land was made fit for cultivation. Second, irrigation facilities were extended to new areas. The temples took the lead in both. Chola temples had obtained a lot of money through donations which was invested in agriculture. Kings also granted land in dry areas so that the grantees made efforts to provide irrigation facilities. The growth of population during this period gave a further impetus to agricultural expansion. Since more people had to be fed, an increase in cropped area, the total area under the different crops, as well as better productivity to produce more of the same piece of land. From the same piece of land to give more production of crops was their main issue. Okay, I'll come back in the next video and we'll finish this chapter today. Okay, I'll read it out to you.